everybody. I'm Haley Mitchell-Haugen. I'm the editor of Sheila-Na-Gig Online and Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. Tonight, we are here to celebrate the publication of Rose Mary Boehm's new book, Life Stuff, and she's a friend of Sheila-Na-Gig, so we're excited to have her here and celebrate her work. And then we'll be hearing from a number of amazing readers from Sheila-Na-Gig Online Spring 2024 issue. You'll be hearing from Mary McCarthy, Jane Muschenetz, Emily Patterson, Beate Sigriddaughter, Laura Foley, Simona Carini, Carla Schwartz, and Jill Crammond. We have a great lineup tonight. I'd like to introduce Rose Mary. Rose Mary Boehm is a German-born British national living and writing in Lima, Peru, and author of 2 novels as well as 7 poetry collections. Her poetry has been published widely in the U.S., poetry reviews online and in print. She was twice nominated for a Pushcart Award and once for a Best of the Net Award. All her books are available on Amazon. And tonight she's celebrating and reading from her newest collection, Life Stuff, which was published by Kelsay Books earlier, just before the new year. So welcome, Rose Mary. It's exciting to have you here.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here. And here is my 8th collection, Life Stuff. That's what it looks like. And I'm going to read from it. It's always difficult to choose which poems you actually want to read. I hope I chose well. So without much ado, let me start. I just want to add that I'm hitting 86 soon, and so I have every right to look back over my life and pick up a memory here or there that became a poem. The first one, Embers. I live in the embers of fires that once were fierce, white, gold, red, amber conflagration. Youth, needs must, no prisoners, no forethought, no consequences considered, torching what came near enough, and the Eichmann, a chimera, whispered about by shivering old women no longer strong enough to hold the flames. I have felt his breath in the shadows. Last night he held my hand, sightless, unforgiving. I always loved you, life. You have showered me in riches. You have hurt me beyond measure, but I'm getting tired now. I started the battle early, and the warrior woman's arm is lowering her bow. I wore a coat of many colors because what the world became what the world wanted me to be, claimed my freedom by melting into walls. Sometimes you could see the fissures. I did what I needed to do in the anonymity of plain sight. I lusted after the steps of my mother's forebears, my long mane blowing in the wind. My DNA remembered that I honored the goddess, cared for the land, heard it, and told the stories of old. Didn't know what it means to belong, but I always was a quick learner, my deceit well practiced. You never quite found me out as not one of your pack. My brother. It's not easy to be 16 with a kid sister of 8. You get shtick for that from your friends, especially if you love her enough to make her kites and things and teach her to skate on Württemberger's frozen pond. Later, I came from wherever I could, by plane, helicopter, train, by Fiat Cinquecento, crawling up from Munich for 800 kilometers. Or passing the border between Holland and Germany with my vicious cat firmly locked into its traveling basket. Long walks, long beers, restaurants, bars, and cafes, all over the once thriving harbor, now a fashionable haven for those of us who had the time. The Holocaust monument, the bike lanes, windy terraces, his tall, slightly bent frame walking with steps that made me feel small again. We sat at the canoe club in a weak sun, our collars up against an imaginary wind. Kids at the mini pier laughing and mucking about. He told me then, and there rose a silence between us. We slowly finished our beers. I still visit. They packed his ashes with earth and seedlings. He is growing into a tall and slender birch, fresh young branches reaching for the sky. Nobody at this address. I left of my own free will, smelling the blood of a big world that waited just for me. Perhaps I was used to moving, used to being of no fixed address, but that's not true either. We had for years, and then more years, fixed addresses. We just didn't get to keep them. More and more bombing raids, neighbors buried under the rubble, a huge hole in the field where we played. The house opposite was still quietly burning. We left for a place where my mother was born, where I had aunts, grandparents, a flat I thought a palace, where my mother had to fetch the water from the pump, and where I collected warm, dirty eggs from underneath brown chickens. Then the horizon was on fire. More conventional bombs were dropped on Dresden, and more destruction rained from the sky than on Hiroshima and Nagasaki only 6 months later. One day soon after we hung out the white sheet, surrender. And 2 armies marched and marched. German women and girls preferred the current of the river Elbe to being trapped by the Russian army. And when it was all over, we returned to what was left of the other home, which I barely remembered. After some years of change, I endeavored to find my own Silk Road, to taste exotic flavors, to survive without help from those who loved me. And then they all took Charon's boat too soon, and I was too far to see them off. But I will burden my children with these stories only if they ask. Musings. My mirror, registering time, reflecting place, telling reverse truths. Somewhere in my back room, a picture, her face engraved on the palimpsest of my mind. In parallel universes, the ones where memories live, did I ever make it out? This boy, his hair fell over one eye and he blew it back with a well-practiced gesture. I think he became a butcher. He'll be never older than 14. His name was Wilhelm, I think. My second child is the third. I wouldn't miss her for the world, but I do ache for the one who changed her mind. One day, my mother could barely walk when her cheeks gave into gravity. My grandmother, forever wearing a black beret, a network of wrinkles covering her face. Our 50th school reunion. They had all become old people. Invisible arms around my neck. Never really got to know you because you left too early. Never saw you, except with my heart's eyes. Still, I loved you as I did the others. And ever since I began to bleed, you've been with me, in my heart, in my flesh. I will always think of you as my second child. An evening in one of London's inner suburbs. A soft splash in the pond. The moon trying to rise above the sycamores that have grown too large for back gardens. They hold her with their green, leafy fingers, a prisoner in their crowns. There is still a faintly glowing horizon. The sun is loath to give up his dominion to the wool-headed moon who spins dreams and stories half remembered, leading us astray with the glorious possibility of painting outside of all lines. The mosquitoes have come out to play, too close for comfort. I can see them, tiny wings glimmering in the first moonlight that steals its way through the sycamores. Another splash in the pond, a dog's soft howl in a garden beyond, the cat slinking through the hole in the fence, just next to the little door we kept for our small children to visit the neighbors, our friends. I can hear Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody across the park-like square where all the gardens meet, possibly coming from the open back doors of the young percussionist, a tiny young woman I met when we were both out walking the dogs. She said she came to London with The Who. Hers a mighty kindly mastiff, mine a flirty licorice all sorts. Thinking of little Miss Muffet. Why do the vets shave the spot and sterilize it before they plunge in the deadly poison? I wipe my eyes. No, I'm not crying for the dog. I'm crying for the end of a love that was supposed to last until death us do part. Will he have me put down? He did say that me wanting to leave was probably due to a hormone imbalance while menopausal. Do the kids know that Melinda is not a friend? The evening continues to wind its serenity around my sadness. I'm moving gently on the swing we made for the kids when they were little. They're out partying, making music, flirting, trying out their new adulthood. I shall just have to make sure their cars are home when I wake up in the early morning hours. Guilt. They said, we are going to meet a friend. Her family died in a concentration camp. Are you nuts? I said. You want her to meet me, your German friend? We'll ask, they said. They asked. Yes, she said. I went. It was a Sunday in Holland. It was in the big old hotel, huge columns of old marble that looked like freshly cut meatloaf. A small old woman, slightly bent, white hair, her legs forming an inverted triangle. She is slowly walking towards us, looking at me. She stretches out her arms, her open hands. A question of belonging. Where are you from, they ask, and I can't tell. The more urgent the inquiry, the less I understand the question. My mind contemplates geographies and deeper places excavated by fear, love, desires, and the grand fugue. I pulled in my roots a lifetime ago and now hang suspended in midair, needing nothing more than an affable welcome. I didn't. My brother said, don't come. I didn't fly out to see her one last time. My brother said, she doesn't know who I am. I figured she wouldn't know who I am either. I had never been near the death of my loved ones. I think I avoided the grief. I had lost them already, or so I thought, or so I hoped. I had just picked up my children from school. My brother called, she's gone. I could hear his utter disbelief, his voice choking in watery flame. And suddenly I felt empty, abandoned, a forlorn child in a big world, a woman without substance, homeless. And suddenly my loss multiplied, and all the tears I'd never shed filled a salty ocean of grief and guilt. And suddenly I was there with her, wrestling with her demons. I wondered whether I would have recognized her. My father had been a dark blue life-size remake in a life-size box, vaguely reminding me of the man who held open his arms when I came flying. 3 days to dying, 3 days of longing, 3 days of holding on. Perhaps, but I didn't fly out to see her one last time. Leave everything and hurry to see her and let her touch me one last time. Let her know I cared enough. To tell her one more time, I love you, Mum. Tell her one more time, I'm strong because you made me so. Thank her one more time for giving me her life. And I finish with my final flight. How to prepare for my final flight. First, let me fly. Ideally, my hand in your hand, one more time giving me warmth. My eyes fading into the cool blue pools of yours, your kiss and the promise that you won't be long. Still, I have a feeling that time is relative where I'm going. We will not be discussing this, however, at least not now. I'll be taking my backpack and move over that eternal line. Will the weight be lighter now? Moving one waft at a time. I suppose I'll be wafting. It's not American football. As you know, I don't believe in the God the church made, but I wouldn't mind a bit of singing. There was the one song at my grandfather's funeral, but that's in German and only works if you understand the words. It's about going home after finishing work. My grandfather was a working man who wore working man's boots. I can still hear his heavy, tired tread on the wooden steps of their little house. So you chose your favorite, Johnny Baker. Even though I'm telling you Maria Ewing would do. Still, this is your party. Invite your best friends, but try and love some of mine too. There will be a few who would like to listen to the arias. Once you have my ashes in a box, you won't sing so low as to put them into a personalized urn. Promise me to take them to the forest, any forest, to become perhaps a Shumameira in our piece of the rainforest in Peru, a pine in the Spanish Sierra, or perhaps a birch in Finland or the German Alps. I would very much want what stays behind to become a tree. However, as I said, it's not my party. But I would love to be tall and gorgeous and able to give you shade. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rose Mary, for sharing your work. We've been listening to Rose Mary Boehm from Lima, Peru, reading from her new book, Life Stuff, from Kelsay Books. So thank you so much. We're now moving into our invited mic time of the evening. We have a variety of readers from Shiela-Na-Gig's spring 2024 issue. And we are starting off with Mary McCarthy. Go ahead and take it away, Mary.
Hi. Thank you for having me. And I really enjoyed Rose's reading. Was just, her poems are so wise and so beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was the poem that was in the spring Sheila-Na-Gig. The title is Ceremonies. Filleting the cold, bright-scaled fish alone in the morning kitchen, fear is the knife that fits my hand, yet threatens to slip, its keen edge hungry for the soft, pale flesh and the red-hot pulse just beneath the surface. Safety lives inside the curve of your arm, elbow and wrist, snug around my shoulders, steady as the floor we stand on. Unembarrassed by my skill with knives, learning just how to breach these bodies with their scaly armor, their subtle, sharp, and hidden bones, navigating past defenses without the mess of spilt guts, spoiling the delicate meat I rinse at the sink, keeping what's left for baiting traps, wasting not an ounce of sacrifice. And this other one, thank you. This other one is from my book, which just came out a few months ago from Kelsay. It's called How to Become Invisible. The title is Unfit. She was an acre of timber waiting for the match, would set her hair on fire and slap it out fast. A dramatic dare and rescue the wrong side of sane. Followed by the smell of burning, she marked everything she touched with fingerprints of ash. She walked the alleys for hours. Those years, most drinks came in glass bottles, and every one she found, she swung hard and threw against a wall to hear it smash. No one saw or stopped her, and she left behind a trail of broken glass. Trees spoke to her the way they speak to the deaf, in gestures and with the shapes of shadow and light splintering the air. She knew each one she passed by its secret name, the path sap took from root to leaf, the way fog rested like a scarf around its shoulders, the way each day was a slow step in its long dance, the way they forgave her with new greens after each long winter's freeze. She had no guardian angel, but a great bird, a shadow, falling like an owl, silent and dark, swift and accurate as any raptor, claw and beak and the hush of air, coming down clean as a knife. Even with that fierce eye, she was more crow than owl or eagle. No diva, but a canny scavenger, polishing her darks in the sun. Voice a raw caw, neither the gull's bold squawk nor the long, soft grief of the dove. Her voice unfit for words in any language but the one she invented to speak to herself. Arms spread like wings, she wore her fury like a crown, a totem, a warning, a bird whose silent scream could turn men's bones to sand, leaving her there at last, a queen, triumphant and alone. Thank you.
Wow, that was fantastic. Oh, such beautiful readings, Rose and Mary, that just brought it home. Hi, everybody. I'm Jane Muschenetz. I'm also a Kelsay Books author and a Sheila-Na-Gig author, which is really exciting symmetry happening. And I'm going to start off with the link I put from this month's Sheila-Na-Gig issue. Clickbait is the poem. TikTok poetess, try and stop drowning in her image. Hear what she's saying while still seeing her. It's hard not to worry. For my own daughter, to hold this flashing fish of almost woman in my hands, glistening lips, wetted words, fetchingly angled, to give her the sea, this net. Oh, she's good enough to make waves, surrounded by waves already, dark locks, coiled, framed, streaming, the filtered moon of her face. All the right pieces are clanging around inside her. So loud and immediate, she shakes, lure and hook, afraid of escaping notice. See her struggle to be real, to be a real girl, to be better than a real girl, to create her own reality, reel after reel, her cat-lined, doll-lashed eyes revealing that deliberate, I am now emoting magic trick, so effective, with the kind of boys, girls that vanished you in high school. The line and sinker between beauty and perversion deep ends on so many factors. Consider the life raft possibility of performance art. Some notion of perfect skin, hair, lighting, lips is reading me poetry, and I am gone fishing. Catch me? And my second poem, thank you, is from, ta-da, this is the proof copy of my Sheila-Na-Gig PowerPoint, which I'm so excited to mark up. And this one is called You Are 600% Hotter Than the Sun. And it's based on a physics fact, which is this: a cup of the sun's core produces about 60 milliwatts of thermal energy. But by volume, the same amount of a human being produces 360 milliwatts. So in a sense, you are hotter than the sun. There's just a lot less of you. You are 600% hotter than the sun. Speaking roughly, in terms of heat generated per every human inch you give off, more milliwatts, surge, energy. Only the sun is bigger. It matters. We're all blinded by love. The expanding, contracting universe is just another metaphor for longing, and life, its own purpose. How dazzling this science. Consider falling for a physicist. The painstakingly slow way they undress mathematical mysteries. Talk about bodies in motion. Gets me every time space continuum. Part, particle, atomic, incandescent. You are pound per pound more life source, more bomb, more seasons spinning, searing center, heart, engine, radiating nuclear dynamic than the sun. Can't look directly in the mirror. Small wonder. Imagine. None of us powerless. Thank you.
That was amazing, Jane. Mary and Rose, just loved your poetry as well. I'm Emily Patterson. So glad to be here and have some poems in this issue of Sheila-Na-Gig. I am also a Kelsay author too, so we have a through line going. I've published 2 chapbooks with Kelsay, and I also just recently finished my manuscript for my first full-length book. And I'm really excited to have that in the works, and also that the 2 poems published in this issue are both a part of that manuscript. So I'm going to read both of those for you tonight. Fishing lessons. On the dock at King Beach, my father shows me how to pierce a night crawler with a delicate hook, how to cast the line out into the pull of the gray wake, where boats send crimped waves over the surface like an endless greeting. How to wait below the bowl of an Ohio early summer sky for a fish to bite or not. Just as we are about to call it, the line catches, surprising me with its sudden strength, and I clumsily hoist the prize. Bluegill the size of my hand, all flail and flip, small but declared large enough to keep for our purposes, which are how to scrape the scales away, slicing silver skin, but not your own fingers, how to smooth back the gills like wiry feathers, and finally, how to heat the thin fillet from translucent to white, cooled in melted butter and salt. How to move through this world, attentive to small tasks that make up a story, a life. How to look closely at the work of your own hands and call it good. How to give back to the water when you should, but otherwise know a keeper when you see it. Then hold on like hell with an unspoken reverence for it all. Astroidia. You're mine, she says, stringy arms trapping my head to her chest. Mine, with the certainty only a child can summon, body stretched over sand-colored sheets like a starfish. When her father says, no, she belongs to herself, she strikes with sudden strength, limbs curled and clinging, and it's then that I recognize her claim, the one that, each morning, I don't let myself make. Prying her arms away gently, I steady her water blue eyes with mine, see the depths of a surface, know it's true when I say yes and yes. Thank you.
Thank you for this wonderful reading so far. It's been really inspiring. I can't somehow multitask enough to send all of these wonderful notes, but it's been really moving. Here's a poem that is in this spring edition of Sheila-Na-Gig called Flight. The shimmering griffin talons of fairy tales carry her high over church bells muffled by snow. She wears a golden dress in case there are further instructions. None have come through so far. She knows what is missing and whispers in the griffin's ear to take her higher as she leans into the golden mane. She has the language of sorrow in her pocket, hoping to trade it for a language of joy, even if it costs extra. It is getting darker. She blesses the remaining forests, vows to honor them while they still stand. For a short while, a slender moon lines up with 2 planets, Jupiter
Venus. She blesses the splinters and fragments of life, an early kiss, a meeting of eyes once on a river raft, moments when love was not judged frivolous. She sighs in preparation for the inevitable descent into reality. She hadn't realized it was going to take so much courage. The other poem I'm going to read is from my book, Wildflowers. My idea at the moment is a lot about going back to why I wanted to write poetry and the excitement of how it originally felt and still feels. And so here's a poem called The Poem I Always Wanted to Write. Maybe it'll remind you of your own ways of when you first wrote poetry and were excited by it. The poem I always wanted to write. This is for you, my love, sweet earth, my home, sphere of water, sun, life. My wide wings unfold with memory and breath and tears that form without shame. At my feet, small flowers, practice in case I ever master the language of prayer. Thank you, thank you. I love this day, this sun, this water, this amazing line of gold you paint on waves between the sun and my eyes, light that follows wherever I go. How you open each moment like music I am meant to fall in love with but haven't yet heard. How you make me want to touch the mist and watch the sun slide between veils of morning. Or one night at the shore, the gentlest rain ever. I don't even know it rains until I touch my hair. An ancient scent of longing lingers in the air. A dark cat slinks through the damp evening grass. At home, my mother's angel glitters in the open window, and I trust your sweetness. Your reality always takes me by surprise. I want to be a waterfall rushing to where I belong. I want to be the story I have always wanted to hear. Thank you.
That was so beautiful. The ancient scent of longing. I'm really happy to be in this group, and it's so fun to see people who are here, who have gotten to know a little bit here and there, various online situations. I'm here in New Hampshire, where we're having a really miserable ice storm, and so anything real would have been canceled. So I'm very thankful to the Zoom option. I'm going to read what was in Sheila-Na-Gig just recently, and then I'll read another poem. So this is called What We Keep. In the heat of early summer, my bees don't keep to their hive. They flee, swarm a budding apple tree, form a cluster I marvel at, a pulsing orange, brown, green fringed mass. Each body heavy with honey. They've scraped like a go bag we'd take escaping wildfire. As I climb the ladder, propped on the trunk to herd the bees, I wonder if I keep them to please my late husband who dreamed of it, or to prove something to him or myself, strong-willed enough to wrangle 30,000 humming beings back into the space they rejected, compliant under my direction. Except for one lone scout who detects a threat or my hesitancy, strikes me above the eye, which reddens, swells shut, keeping me humble, as does my wife, glad to help me please myself or him or all of us by keeping bees, as she and I keep learning how the body balloons with pain, then slowly absorbs poisons into a greater, stronger whole. Thank you. And this next poem is from my new manuscript that's coming out a little later this year from Fernwood Press, and it's called Sledding the Valley of the Shadow, is the name of the book. This poem is called Keep Trying. After snowshoeing up the steep hill in deep swaths of snow, we stop beneath a glittering globe of sky. The space of silence opens over us, standing as if we were the base, channeling current to a bulb too hot to touch. We remove gloves, hats, jackets, and surprising winter heat. In this quiet spot on the top, in a forest of would-be lamps, sensing the thaw that will spark their green, our lips find each other's. Gazing upward, stretched out together in the snow, yet apart, we keep trying, as Mary Oliver and the Buddha instructs, to make of ourselves a light, one bright enough to guide us to kindness, toward ourselves, toward each other, toward every living thing, and hope to carry that shine with us back down the hill into our separate lives. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Simona, and I'm reading to you from Northern California, where we don't have an ice storm, but it seems to be still winter. I don't know. Super happy to be here to make the day much sweeter in the company of all of you. Beautiful reading so far. And I am going to share the poem that is in this issue of Sheila-Na-Gig online. And it's called Moraine Lake Varying with the Light. 4:30, visitors rushed up the rock pile to shoot the water's colors. First light painted it matte blue. Sunrise blended in a green tone. Fleecy clouds darkened it. Ripple-free, mirror to mountains, moraine, glacier. I took the trail along the fur-lined north shore. Past the canoe dock, I gazed back, the lake steel, the landscape black and white. A glacial streams burble, earthy smells of conifers, resin, wet wood, stones. Later, I climbed a rock pile too, captured a scene of liquid gemstone and wooden columns, spruce, turquoise, steel. Against the pressure to choose, I balanced on a ledge, holding both views. And I am then going to read a poem from my book published by Sheila-Na-Gig in November 2022. It's called Survival Time. And this is a poem dedicated to my favorite fish, which is a yellow-tailed damselfish. What does an underwater creature know about the night sky, the stars in it? Intense blue studded with diamonds. A small fish flashes, sliver of night sky cut from the galaxy's heart. Juvenile yellow-tailed damselfish, half the size of its name on the page. A chance mutation chose night blue. The next one aimed for the stars. An easy catch for predators, until one reduced its stars to dots as he grew up and reproduced. A yellow tail for defense. Beauty had to become transient. A malevolent law, cosmic balance, live got out of this. nature handles her own. Young jewel damsel patrols its coral territory with the fervor of a newborn star. Tiny fish in improbable regalia blazes through muted surroundings, tangoing with my eyes. Green eyes, 10 deft fingers, 4-chambered heart, double circulation I have, yet not that blue, those stars. Thank you so much.
That was so wonderful. And all the readings tonight were so beautiful. My name's Carla Schwartz. I'm coming to you from Carlisle, Massachusetts right now. And there we're also having some ice. And I'm going to read to you first the poem that appeared this recently in Sheila-Na-Gig online. And this is a poem that's in conversation with another poem, the other poem being the poem Touch Me by Stanley Kunitz. And this is a poem called Let Me Touch You. Let the rabbit tend summer's last flowers, my long-lived husband, my pliant muscle. Let me touch you. Let me remind you who you are. Let us curl in bed, each with a book in hand, wait out the torrent storm. Let the raging winds batter our home. We rattle, yes, but lie entwined in hush. Yes, I'll remind you, my project poet, of your fenced lyrics, your well-lit free verse, your sturdy elegies. We've patched the mice out of our house many a time, stuffed steel wool up the shower drain at night. Now this creaky home, like us, shows its age. Tomorrow, we'll walk out in steamy air. Take my hand, my heart. It's not too late for love. And for this next poem, I'm going to read to you. It's not in any of my books, but I did put links in case people are interested in my books. This poem is called Extra Bones. It's a new poem. When the orthopedist insisted on a surgery of his own invention, when he threatened crippledom by the age of 25, unless I'd have both feet in casts for all of 3rd grade, my mother sought a second opinion from a kind-hearted doctor who skimmed his fingers over the os navicularis just above my instep and prescribed arch supports and exercises, my ups and downs, my ins and outs, to stem the pain I felt every hike my mother coaxed me on, the needles of ache, which at 8 I couldn't staunch, until, as time went on, I grew and outgrew the hurt above my arches. But by then, I thought I was too old to hike with my mother, who loved the steps, the stones, the views, until she grew too old, then died. Today, on my mountain hike, in my years much beyond those 25, I notice the distant color-strewn hills, crystal towers of frost built up on the moss, the fungal orange moons under a root. On the steep descent, with halting steps, I take care not to slip, but when an icy patch takes me down, I sit with the stone, wearing my mother's hiking pants, and laugh my mother's laugh at how it smarts. Thank you very much.
These have all been such great poems. I'm so excited to be a part of this. I'm coming to you from upstate New York, where we're also at the beginning of an ice storm. So Hooray for the East Coast. My first poem is from Sheila-Na-Gig, and it is My Mother is an Ironing Board. My mother is an ironing board, her grief flat, covered in thick cotton, sorrow like scorch marks marring her broad, flat frame. My mother wears grief, calls it pressed polyester pants. She calls the dry cleaner, inquires about her grief. You remember, she tells the dial tone, fireman's blues. Her voice is stiff, slightly chemical, says grief made from wool is too scratchy, won't wash dark grief with light. My mother grieves long after the dryer stops its hypnotic whirl, its high heat cure. My mother is red wine on a vinegar spill, mixed up and bound to leave a stain. My mother heats her grief in the microwave after she takes the cat food out, after she pours another glass of Chardonnay, after she calls each stray love. My mother says she's fine, but today she wore her dead husband's suspenders to hold up her wrinkled slacks, filled his leather helmet with old photos, a handkerchief, and a funeral card, lit a match, set her grief on fire. And the next poem is about my daughter, those devilish daughters. Just wanted to let you know, Jane, it doesn't change even when they're 18. On learning and disbelieving, the average age of people when they go missing is 34. My daughter says an opossum is a strange graduation present, so I tell her about their superpowers, how they play dead by instinct, not by choice, how avoiding danger is another kind of force. I tell her possums are immune to venom, honeybees, scorpions, sneaky men. I tell her if high school was a den of rattlesnakes, then the real world is a hive on fire. With 50 teeth, I tell her, you can vanquish any foe. There's no mistaking a possum for anything else. Standing out, another kind of superpower, another gift. Remember the possum I ran over? She survived, wobbled away to procreate, proliferate. That girl made something of herself. Play dead when you need to, I tell my daughter. Hiss and growl when you can't. Be a possum, not a princess. If my daughter has noticed the strands of wiry white fur I've been weaving into her hair at night, she hasn't said a word. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. That was a great poem to end the evening on. Really, really wonderful. And thank you to all our invited mic readers and to Rose Mary. These are friends of Sheila-Na-Gig Editions and Sheila-Na-Gig Online, and you can find us at Sheila-Na-Gig blog.com. Thank you, everybody.